Hey everyone, how's it going? So back in Generation 6, I used to love having 6 vs 6 single battles against a whole bunch of different people on the PSS. And now with the Festival Plaza, this is completely impossible, and I'm pretty pissed off. So I decided to make myself feel better by remembering the top 10 most annoying Pokemon I used to face back in Generation 6. Alright, so at number 10 we have Togekiss, and this Pokemon is just all around really good, and could be really annoying to face. So here's what Togekiss could do to you. Basically, Togekiss was usually used as kind of a wall Pokemon, although could be used as some sort of a bulky sweeper, and every Togekiss I pretty much ever fought ran this set. It would have Thunder Wave to paralyze you just in case you'd outspeed. It would run the ability Serene Grace. Now, Serene Grace is a really good ability. Basically, it doubles the chance of a move's additional effect activating. So let's give an example. Togekiss loves to use Air Slash. Air Slash has a 30% chance under normal circumstances to flinch. With Serene Grace, that's 60%. And that will stack with Thunder Wave, which has a 25% chance of you being fully paralyzed. So, add them together, you have a very low chance of moving. And if you do get to move, you better take Togekiss out in one hit, because if you don't, it's going to use Roost. Now, Togekiss did have a counter. Any fast electric Pokemon like Jolteon, Togekiss couldn't really deal with as effectively, but if you didn't have one on your team, or it was fainted, Togekiss could be a huge problem to deal with. And speaking of fast Pokemon, we have Mega Manectric at number 9. Now, Mega Manectric isn't as versatile as Togekiss, but it has a niche and it fills it well. It has base 135 speed and base 135 special attack plus the Intimidate ability. If you don't know, Intimidate lowers your attack by 1. So, Mega Manectric loves to do this thing where it swaps in, gets off the Intimidate, uses Volt Switch, swaps out. It's really annoying, really fast, and its bulk is alright. And yeah, I hated facing this thing. Basically, the standard Mega Manectric set was like Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, Hidden Power Ice, and Overheat. Hey, we were talking about a counter to Togekiss. This thing was a hard counter to Togekiss, and the next thing on our list. So at number 8, we have Ferrothorn, and yes, Overheat from Mega Manectric just wrecked Ferrothorn, but it is a very, very good wall that can set up lots of entry hazards. It can actually be kind of versatile too. So its stats aren't as good as the other two, only total of 489, and that's because it has terrible speed, and its special attack aren't very good, but you're not going to be using those. You're going to be using its excellent Grass Steel typing, its really good defense and special defense, and sure, its HP could be better, but it makes up for that by having pretty good attack, which makes it very versatile. Now, there's no one standard Ferrothorn set. One thing that was always consistent with Ferrothorn was its ability Iron Barbs, which takes off every time you make contact 1/8 of your health, and that paired well with the Rocky Helmet, which took off an additional 1/6 if you made contact. So if you, let's say, hit Ferrothorn with Fire Punch, first of all, you weren't guaranteed to KO because Ferrothorn is so bulky, but even if you did, that was 30% of your health taken away. And if you didn't, Ferrothorn could start setting up on you for days, which is not ideal. Alright, at number 7, we have a Pokemon that thankfully did get nerfed, and that's Talonflame. Talonflame has pretty mediocre stats, but what really made it annoying to face was its ability. So Gale Wings, which it still has, used to give Talonflame priority on all its flying moves. Now it only does this at full health. And considering Talonflame's most popular move is Brave Bird, which does do recoil damage, usually Talonflame gets one priority flying move, and then it gets normal priority for the rest of the battle, although it does have great speed. Because of Talonflame's ability, it could fill two niches really, really well. One was a revenge killer, but the other threat was that Talonflame could also run sort of this bulky set, where it was max special defense, max health, and basically the strategy was to use Will-O-Wisp to burn you so that would lower your attack, and then get up some Swords Dances and just start sweeping through your team. Okay, so I'll admit here that number 6 might just be one that gave me a lot of problems, but I hated facing Gliscor back in Generation 6. So if we look at Gliscor's typing, we'll see that Ice should be really powerful against it, and it is, but Gliscor is just pretty good if you don't have an Ice Pokemon. Or an Ice move, since for the most part, Ice Pokemon actually aren't very good, but that's for another conversation. So Gliscor's speed and attack are pretty good, but its defense is great and its ability is excellent. So its ability is Poison Heal. Basically, if Gliscor is poisoned, it will regain 1/8 of its health, so twice that of leftovers every single turn. And it was a really good physical wall, and it could stall you out with some protects, and man, it was annoying as anything. If you had a special Ice Pokemon, you could take out Gliscor. I used to use Articuno on one of my teams, and that was pretty much for Gliscor. But if you didn't have a Pokemon with Ice Beam, you needed to in case you faced this thing. And if you didn't, it was just really hard to take out. So at number 5, we have Pokemon who, based on their base stat total, should be way higher on the list. But because it seemed to me that all the people using these were just completely terrible at the game, I'm leaving Kyogre and Groudon, of course their primal forms, only at number 5. And I don't want to talk that long about these Pokemon because they annoy me so much. But like, these Pokemon have no weaknesses. They can do everything. Like, you want a mixed set Groudon? Sure, go ahead. I mean, it's not that fast, but it has Rock Polish. And don't worry about that water weakness. Its Desolate Land ability doesn't allow water moves to hit while it's on the field. It doesn't run out. And Kyogre, well, it can just start spamming Thunder, and Water Spout will do pretty well. And yeah, it's also not that fast. But base 90, that's still pretty decent. And good luck trying to hit it with a special move. Oh, don't worry, its special attack is so great, you probably won't have that opportunity. However, you did have to have some skill to use them. If someone who was very inexperienced used these Pokemon, it never was as effective as this next Pokemon on the list. And that Pokemon is number 4, Darkrai, which is idiot-proof. I mean, you just use Dark Void and you're fine. Dark Void, 80% accuracy back in Gen 6, automatically puts you to sleep. And Darkrai also has Bad Dreams, which every turn takes away 1/8 of your health. And Darkrai has pretty great speed and great special attack, so it puts you to sleep, takes away 1/8 of your health, and then starts spamming Dark Pulse or whatever. It could pretty much use anything. I mean, I hated this thing. Like, if you didn't take it out before it put you to sleep, it was going to be really annoying. And I do want to take this opportunity to complain that Game Freak doesn't put Sleep Claws as an option in their battles. And basically, Sleep Claws has been around since the first Pokemon Stadium, and all it says is that you can't have 2 Pokemon asleep at the same time. And when you have a Darkrai running around, you really need that, because if they have all your Pokemon asleep, every Pokemon's just going to lose 1/8 of its health, not going to attack, and Darkrai's pretty powerful. It's just going to start spamming whatever move, probably Dark Pulse. It's just so annoying. And thankfully, Dark Void now has 50% accuracy, which pretty much nerfed Darkrai completely. I'm still annoyed by this Pokemon. Making this recording is making me annoyed, and that's Mega Kangaskhan. I mean, I hated facing these things, and they were just so easy to use. Everyone used them, and they're just such garbage. So, Mega Kangaskhan, you'll take a quick look at its stats. Every stat is good except Special Attack, which it doesn't use. So, it's a great Pokemon to use. But then you get to its ability, and man, its ability, it's just the cheapest thing in the entire world. So it's called Parental Bond. And Parental Bond basically allows you to do a second attack after your first attack that does half damage. Now it's 25% damage, but like, let's look at some combinations people like to use. So you use Fake Out, right? So Fake Out, base 40 power, and Kangaskhan pretty physically strong, so, you know, it did maybe 10% of your health, maybe more, who knows. And then it used Power Up Punch, because that was a TM, and so it would buff up its attack. It usually had Sucker Punch, so in case you were faster, it had priority. And then it either had Return, or Earthquake, or Rock Slide. It depends on why the person had them on their team. But like, it was so easy to use. And yeah, this is some strategy. I mean, you had to think about that 4th move, and maybe it didn't have Sucker Punch. Maybe you had to think about that 3rd move. So I face these things way more than anyone else on the list. I would see this thing and I'm like, alright, which 3 Pokemon am I going to use to take this thing out? And yeah, it took like 3 Pokemon. That's how powerful this thing is. It's bulky, it's strong, it's fast, it's amazing. Thank goodness they nerfed it, it's still really good. That's how great Mega Kangaskhan is. But because I feel like if I didn't put this here, everyone would complain, I have to put Mega Rayquaza at number 1. And I don't want to. I mean, this Pokemon is just terrible. I mean, look at that horrible defense and special defense. Only base 100, Game Freak? I mean, come on. That's terrible. I mean, yeah, it is above average for most Pokemon, but this is Mega Rayquaza. How could you have not given it base, I don't know, 150 or something? I mean, that seems fair. And look at this terrible ability they gave it, Delta Stream? So in case you don't know, this horrific ability only gives Mega Rayquaza a kind of boost against moves that would be super effective against its flying type. So Ice usually would do 4 times damage, now it only does 2 times damage because of the dragon typing. But think about that, it doesn't take away its dragon weaknesses. Fairy still does 2 times. Oh yeah, I guess, sure, Rock now just does neutral damage, and it actually resists electric, but come on! I mean, this is Mega Rayquaza. I mean, this is supposed to be the cheapest Pokemon ever. And yeah, it can Mega Evolve without a Mega Stone, but it can only hold 1 item. Why can't it hold 3 items? I mean, I'm just completely confused. And like, it can't learn such like great moves as Instant Win move. I mean, you've never heard of that one? It's a new move in Gen 8. Basically, you use it and you win. So yeah, Mega Rayquaza, wait, what's that? Mega Rayquaza's only number 2? Oh, what's number 1 then? So number 1, I put Xerneas, and I get that a lot of you will find this controversial because yes, Mega Rayquaza on paper is much cheaper, but basically because Mega Rayquaza was banned from a lot of different battles, and because anyone with a modicum of skill never seemed to use it, I guess they had too much pride. I saw Mega Rayquaza being used by really low skilled players, and it almost worked as a handicap because they were so bad, it didn't really make a difference. But Xerneas I saw used by all different types of players, and man, it was just so easy to use it, and it was just so cheap. Here's the way you use Xerneas. So first, let's look at its stats. So not as good as Mega Rayquaza's, but still very good. I mean, its weakest is defense, its special defense is next, but don't worry, you're going to buff that, and here's how you're going to do it. So basically, you're going to use Geomancy. Geomancy is a 2-turn move, but after 2 turns, it's going to get a +2 in special defense, speed, and special attack. And that special attack, it's pretty good. So basically, here's what I would see all the time. Geomancy with Power Herb. Power Herb takes any 2-turn move and makes it a 1-turn move. Pretty good with Geomancy. And then you put Moonblast. I saw Thunderbolt a lot. And then the third move, I don't know. Depends on what you wanted. I mean, sometimes I saw Focus Blast. Sometimes I saw one of the hidden powers. Sometimes I would see something like Close Combat, like a physical move. I mean, sure, you don't get a buff in physical attack from Geomancy, but having a physical move, perfectly possible on a Xerneas. And once you got off that Geomancy, by the way, you were pretty much guaranteed a victory. I mean, yeah, there were Poison and Steel Pokemon that possibly could stop Xerneas, something with a physical attack because its special defense is going to be so high, but even that's not guaranteed. Xerneas is so fast, has such great special attack, it's pretty much going to KO everything in one hit. And that's why it's number 1 on the list. I hated facing this thing, I faced it all the time, and I just couldn't stand it. So that just about wraps up this video. Before I go, I want to talk about Mega Mewtwo. Basically, it should be on this list because of its stats, but the problem I had putting it here is that no one really ever used it. I battled all the time and I never really saw one of the Mega Mewtwo's, and they're pretty good. I've used them in Showdown, they're great. It's just that I can't really talk about them because I never face them and so they don't annoy me. But this was a personal list. I'd love to hear Pokemon that annoyed you, and maybe I'll make a second list based off the Pokemon annoyed you. That might be a fun idea down the road. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you're not too annoyed by this video. I sure am, so I'm gonna go do something else now. Take care.